So take yourself back to 2013 for a second. Researchers at Oxford, Carl Frey and Michael Osborne, they dropped this absolute bombshell prediction that just takes over every headline.
Oh, yeah, it was everywhere.
Right. They basically told us that 47% of U.S. jobs were at high risk of being totally wiped out by robots. Like total automation. The end of work.
Yeah, the classic doom and gloom narrative.
Exactly. But, I mean, fast forward to today. We are in 2026. You are likely still clocking in, your office is still open, and, the so-called robot apocalypse really just looks like a super aggressive software update. So why were the brightest minds in economics so wrong?
It's such a great question. The narrative back then was essentially this countdown to human obsolescence. They were looking at raw computational power and just assuming it would map directly onto human labor.
Like a one-to-one replacement.
Right. But the reality we're actually living in today based on current labor market data is just so much more nuanced. We didn't get replaced. We got reorganized.
Reorganized.
Yeah, I mean, the data from 2024 and 2025 actually shows massive employment growth in occupations that demand intensive human judgment.
Which brings us to today. Welcome to this deep dive. I'm so glad you're joining us because today we are tearing into this really brilliant paper by Dr. Jonathan H. Westover, and it's titled Designing Work for the Age of AI.
It's a fantastic read.
It really is. And our mission today is to figure out exactly why that early prediction missed the mark, how the modern workplace is fundamentally restructuring to demand more distinctively human skills, and what this critical shift means for your own career and your organization.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if the algorithms aren't replacing us, organizations are clearly doing something else with all this tech.
Right. And the overarching theme here is the choice between automating work versus augmenting human capability.
Augmenting?
Yeah, early on, the instinct was just automation, right? Stripping the human out completely. But the current data overwhelmingly shows that augmentation, using technology to amplify what humans do best, is actually the winning strategy.
Which brings up a slightly uncomfortable question, I guess. Because if we are being augmented instead of replaced, we kind of need to know exactly what makes us worth keeping around. Like, why do you and I still have jobs?
It's the million-dollar question. And to answer that, we lean on this fascinating 2025 study by Loiza and Rigobon.
Okay.
They looked at the labor market and actually identified the specific frontiers where human beings maintain a practically insurmountable advantage over current and foreseeable AI.
And they gave it an acronym, right?
They did. They organized these into a framework called EPOCH. EPOCH. That stands for empathy, presence, opinion, creativity, and hope.
Okay, let's break those down because we need to get really specific about the mechanisms here. Empathy and presence, I mean, they sound like things you'd read on a motivational poster in a break room, but we're talking about concrete economic value here.
We are. We're talking about embodied emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
So, take empathy. An AI system today can absolutely perform sentiment analysis. It can scan, an angry email from a client and categorize it as highly dissatisfied.
Right. It spots the angry keywords.
Exactly. But it cannot walk into a conference room, sense the physical tension in the shoulders of the people sitting there, and adjust its tone in real time to de-escalate the situation with genuine compassion.
Wow.
It just lacks that physical, embodied understanding of human stakes.
So the AI can read the text, but it absolutely can't read the room.
That is a perfect way to put it. And that leads perfectly into the P, which is presence.
Yeah.
This is the capacity to build authentic relationships and social capital.
Like networking, essentially.
Yeah, but deeper. Human relationships generate bonds of reciprocity and shared identity. We do favors for each other. We trust each other based on shared experiences. An algorithm just cannot build real trust.
Right, because it all comes down to mutual obligation. Like, I don't feel a sense of loyalty or mutual obligation to my calculator, no matter how many math problems it solves for me.
Exactly. You don't owe your calculator anything. Then we move to O for opinion. Think of this as complex judgment and ethics. AI optimizes for predefined metrics. You give it a target, it finds the most efficient path. But the real world is messy. Humans have the capacity to make decisions when there are competing values at play or, when the morality of a decision outweighs the raw empirical data.
So we can say, yeah, this path saves us money, but it damages our community reputation, so we just aren't going to do it.
Precisely. We provide the ethical guardrails.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you at the next one, though.
Yeah.
Because the C in EPOCH is creativity. And I mean, I just watched an AI generate a hyper-realistic, high-definition video of a futuristic city from like a one-sentence prompt.
It is visually stunning, I'll give you that.
Right, and I've seen it write a marketing jingle in 3 seconds. So how can you possibly argue humans have an insurmountable advantage there?
I feel like creativity is exactly what AI is taking over right now.
It totally looks that way on the surface. But we have to distinguish between recombination and true imagination.
Recombinate. Yeah, AI systems are remarkable at recombining existing elements, things that already exist in their massive training data sets. So they can synthesize, the brushstrokes of Van Gogh with the skyline of New York.
Because it's seen both of those things a million times.
Exactly. But they struggle to envision completely novel spaces that do not exist yet, or to intentionally break the rules of their own training to create a totally new paradigm.
Oh, I see. So it's essentially acting like a master remixer. Like the AI can take every song ever recorded and mash them up in these surprising, technically perfect ways, but humans are the original composers.
That's a brilliant analogy, yeah.
We don't just generate the notes based on historical probabilities. We invent entirely new genres. And more importantly, we decide why a song matters to our culture in the first place. Like AI doesn't know why a song makes you want to cry.
Exactly. The human defines the meaning. The algorithm just executes the pattern. And that meaning-making connects directly to the final letter, H, for hope. Yeah, this is the distinctively human capacity to articulate an aspirational future. It's vision, it's leadership, it's inspiring a team to take collective action toward an uncertain goal and, maintaining their commitment when things get incredibly difficult.
Right, because AI cannot lead people through a crisis because it doesn't share the risk. It doesn't have skin in the game.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is that those 5 skills, empathy, presence, opinion, creativity, hope they make sense philosophically. But the data shows companies are actually paying a premium for them.
Are they really? Because I feel like we constantly hear about companies just wanting more coders and engineers.
Well, Loiza and Rigobone found that between 2015 and 2023, roles emphasizing these EPOCH capabilities grew 0.132 standard deviations faster than other jobs.
Okay, let me translate that out of academic speak for a second. Basically, for every minor step a job takes toward requiring those human-intensive skills, the economy added something like 12,000 more open roles.
Yes.
So the market is literally putting a massive financial premium on being human.
It really is.
Yeah.
But to understand how organizations are actually mixing these EPOCH skills with AI today, we kind of have to look at the massive mistake companies made around 2020.
Oh, right, when everyone first got their hands on this stuff.
Yeah. The early adopters fell into what economists call the automation-first trap. They looked at a business process, and their only thought was, how can we use this algorithm to completely remove the human worker and save on payroll?
Which led to some incredibly clunky customer service chatbots and, I imagine, incredibly frustrated employees.
Exactly. Economists actually term it so-so automation.
So automation, I love that.
It's very descriptive. These companies saw very modest productivity gains, but the economic value shifted entirely away from the workers without generating any meaningful innovation for the customer.
So nobody really won.
Right. But the real damage was internal. Removing the humans caused massive employee disengagement, a loss of institutional knowledge, and a severe drop in the organization's adaptability. When the market shifted, these fully automated systems were just too rigid to adapt.
So how are the winners doing it differently today? Because we know something like 72% of large enterprises use AI now. So what is the actual mechanism behind a successful rollout?
Well, like we said earlier, the winners are using AI to augment, not automate.
Give me an example of that.
Consider the medical field, specifically radiologists.
Oh, right, because the initial fear was that computer vision would just put them all out of work.
Exactly. But today, when radiologists use AI-assisted tools, diagnostic errors actually drop by 23% compared to a human working alone.
Wow, 23%.
Yeah. The AI can scan 1,000 images in seconds and highlight a microscopic anomaly. But, and this is key, the AI working alone isn't as accurate either. It lacks the medical context.
Right.
The human doctor interprets that highlighted anomaly in the context of the patient's family history, their current symptoms, their lifestyle.
Software development tells the exact same story, actually. Like, developers are coding 55% faster with AI assistance. But the data shows that speed and quality only hold up if the human developer actively reviews, tests, and refines the code.
Precisely.
Like, if they blindly accept the AI's output without applying their own contextual judgment, the error rate just completely spikes.
It is entirely about playing to respective strengths. AI processes massive amounts of data at scale. The human provides the EPOCH skills, the contextual judgment, the problem solving, catching those weird edge cases.
It's the synthesis of the two.
Yeah, and we see this in physical environments too. In manufacturing, instead of building fully automated lights-out factories where no humans are allowed, companies are deploying collaborative robots, or cobots.
Cobots, that's a great term.
Right. These machines operate alongside human workers on the assembly line. And the facilities using these human-machine teams saw 18% higher productivity and 27% lower error rates than the fully automated plants.
That makes total sense because when a novel problem happens, like a machine jams in a weird way or a raw material comes in slightly damaged, something outside the programming has occurred. So the AI freezes, but the human steps in, uses their physical intuition, and just solves it.
Exactly. Which brings us to the real operational reality here. How do organizations actually design this? Because you cannot just buy an enterprise AI license and tell it to, go do marketing or run human resources.
Right, there's no do my job button. And this is where we need to talk about task decomposition. The fundamental rule outlined in Dr. Westover's research is you do not automate a role, you automate a task.
Yes, this is crucial.
Every job basically has to be broken down to its atomic level.
Financial advisors provide a really textbook example of this mechanism. If a wealth management firm tries to replace its human advisors entirely with an algorithmic portfolio manager, like a robo-advisor, the research shows they suffer client attrition rates 3.2 times higher than their competitors.
3.2 times higher. And I totally get why. Because when the market crashes and a client's retirement fund drops 20%, they do not want a chatbot sending them a PDF about market volatility.
Not at all.
They need a human being on the phone. They need the E in EPOCH. They need empathy.
Exactly. And the firms that decomposed the role figured this out. They audited the financial advisor's day. They gave the AI the tasks of portfolio optimization, tax loss harvesting, regulatory compliance, and market tracking.
All the heavy math.
Right, the things algorithms do perfectly.
Yeah.
And they kept the human advisor entirely focused on relationship management, behavioral coaching during those market dips, and goal clarification.
And what was the result?
Those augmented advisors generated 23% higher revenue per client and achieved 31% higher client satisfaction than both the pure AI and pure human models.
That is wild. I imagine e-commerce is a completely different beast, though. How does this look in a purely digital retail environment?
Look at Stitch Fix. They're a clothing subscription service, and their model is an incredible demonstration of task decomposition. They use an algorithm to crunch millions of data points across their entire customer base.
Like what kind of data?
Measurements, purchase history, return rates, fabric preferences. I mean, no human brain could process that matrix of data.
Yeah.
But the AI doesn't make the final decision or ship the box.
Wait, so instead of the AI just firing off a box of shirts to my house, it's acting like a hyper-fast research assistant for a human stylist.
Precisely. The AI generates a curated list of recommendations. A human stylist reviews those recommendations and applies contextual judgment.
Ah, the opinion part of EPOCH.
Exactly. The stylist might read a note from the customer saying they just had a baby, or they were interviewing for a new corporate job. The human applies that nuanced real-world context, swaps out a few items the AI missed the mark on, and writes a personalized note to the customer.
And I bet that drives loyalty.
Oh, by blending algorithmic scale with human empathy, their retention rates absolutely crush traditional retail.
That is so smart.
We see an even more profound impact in healthcare, actually. Northwell Health in New York realized their physicians were spending just an unsustainable amount of time typing up administrative records.
Which doctors famously hate doing.
Right. So they deployed natural language processing AI. The AI simply listens to the physician-patient conversation and automatically generates the clinical notes. It actually reduced documentation time by 40%.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. The crucial detail here is what Northwell did with that saved time.
Yes.
Because they didn't tell the doctors, great, you have 40% more time, go see 40% more patients and boost our billing.
No, they didn't. They explicitly reallocated that recovered time back to the patient. They told the doctors to spend those extra minutes on patient counseling, building rapport, and complex diagnostic reasoning.
Wow.
As a result of applying that extra time to the presence and empathy parts of the job, patient satisfaction rose by 18%, and physician burnout dropped by 23%.
And they also leaned heavily on what the researchers call tacit knowledge. Wait, tacit knowledge, you mean those unspoken gut instinct things you only learn by actually doing the job for 10 years?
Yes, the intuitive expertise frontline workers possess. Northwell Health didn't force this software onto the doctors from the C-suite. They had the physicians actively participate in designing the workflow.
That makes such a difference.
It does. The doctors use their tacit knowledge to tell the software engineers exactly where the AI would help and where the human touch was absolutely non-negotiable.
But what if you don't work for a massive hospital system like Northwell Health or some trillion-dollar tech company? How do you apply this task decomposition to your own resume today to protect yourself?
You have to perform a personal task audit.
Okay.
Look at your daily responsibilities and ruthlessly separate them. Which of your tasks are repetitive, algorithmic, and based on historical data? Start using AI tools to accelerate those.
Get the AI to do the boring stuff.
Exactly. Then, look at the tasks that require navigating office politics, sensing client frustration, or proposing a totally new strategy. Double down on those. Make those EPOCH skills the absolute centerpiece of your value proposition to your employer.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a moment here. Because we have been talking about doctors, software developers, and financial advisors. Highly skilled knowledge workers who have the leverage to redesign their days.
Fair point.
What about the millions of people whose jobs are almost entirely composed of routine, repetitive tasks, like the warehouse workers, the basic data entry clerks? If we don't have a plan for them, aren't we just driving toward massive economic displacement?
This is a huge concern, and it's where corporate obligation comes into focus.
Yeah.
Organizations cannot simply extract value from automation and leave society to deal with the fallout.
Right.
The most forward-thinking companies realize that managing this transition is a core business imperative, and they are funding massive retraining initiatives. For instance, Amazon launched a $1.2 billion program to upskill 300,000 workers whose roles were vulnerable to automation.
And the mechanism making that work isn't just offering free night classes, which no one has energy for. The training happens on paid time.
Exactly.
They are asking a warehouse worker to learn cloud computing at midnight after a 10-hour shift. And because of that, they are seeing a 40% transition rate into higher skilled roles.
AT&T faced a very similar technological disruption. They invested $1 billion in a reskilling program. And crucially, they didn't just try to turn everyone into software engineers.
Which wouldn't work anyway.
Right. They focus heavily on teaching human-centered skills like design thinking and complex problem solving. By doing so, they saved 50% of their at-risk workforce from being displaced.
Alongside retraining, the paper highlights the need for procedural governance. Because when we start handing operational power to algorithms, things can go off the rails really quickly.
Governance is essential, especially regarding who gets hired or fired. IBM actually provides a strong blueprint here. They established an AI ethics board populated by legal experts, human resources, and ethicists.
A real board, not just a PR thing.
Right. This isn't a rubber stamp committee. At one point, they analyzed an AI employment screening tool they were developing, identified potential risks of bias in how it evaluated candidates, and literally halted the deployment.
Wow, they just pulled the plug.
They sacrificed immediate speed to market to ensure their hiring infrastructure remained fundamentally fair.
Unilever tackled the hiring challenge from the opposite direction, actually. They used AI specifically to blind their initial resume screening.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, the algorithm stripped out gender, ethnicity, and educational pedigree, focusing only on raw experience. And that automation reduced their time to hire by 50%.
But did it help with bias?
Well, here's the best part. After the AI did the blinding, they deliberately deployed human recruiters for the actual interviews to evaluate candidates for EPOCH skills, adaptability, presence, collaboration. The combination resulted in a 35% increase in the diversity of successful candidates.
That is a perfect example of augmentation. Beyond hiring, there is the fundamental question of shared financial gains. If a company implements AI and it generates a massive boost in productivity and cost savings, where does that capital go?
Right, because if the workers' historical data and workflows are what trained the AI in the first place, they should absolutely share in the wealth it generates.
Precisely.
Kaiser Permanente set a really fascinating precedent here. They negotiated an agreement regarding AI implementation with their unions. It guaranteed no involuntary layoffs for 5 years due to automation.
Oh, that's huge security.
But the brilliant mechanism was that they mandated 25% of the total cost savings generated by AI had to be returned to the workers in the form of wage increases and better benefits.
Patagonia executed a similar model. They deployed AI to optimize their global supply chain, which generated significant savings. Instead of just padding the bottom line, they pumped those savings directly into employee profit sharing and funded new environmental sustainability programs.
So we have retraining, governance, and profit sharing. But how do you structure an entire company so it doesn't just survives this transition, but stays resilient for the next 20 years?
You build fluid, highly adaptable structures that give humans massive autonomy. Because the half-life of technical skills is plummeting. What you learn today might be obsolete in 3 years.
True.
So companies are decentralizing power. Hair, the massive appliance manufacturer in China, is a radical example. They didn't just implement AI, they blew up their entire corporate bureaucracy. They broke their massive company down into thousands of micro-enterprises.
Wait, explain how a microenterprise actually functions, because it sounds a bit like chaos.
It's essentially a tiny startup of 10 to 15 people operating inside the larger company. They act as their own CEOs. They use AI tools to track their specific profit and loss daily, forecast demand, and manage inventory without having to wait for reports from middle management.
Oh, wow.
Because the AI handles the bureaucratic tracking, these small teams have the total autonomy to pivot their products, redesign their processes, and chase new markets instantly.
So they literally stripped away the middle management and gave the EPOCH skills directly to the front line.
Exactly. Novartis is doing something similar in pharmaceuticals with what they call unbossed research teams.
Unbossed.
Yeah, AI handles the brutal grunt work of literature reviews and initial data crunching. This frees up fluid teams of human scientists to synthesize insights across different medical domains without navigating traditional hierarchies.
Salesforce actually adds another layer to this resilience by connecting AI efficiency to actual human purpose. They have a 1-1-1 philanthropic model.
What does that involve?
They donate 1% of equity, 1% of product, and 1% of employee time to the community. When they rolled out AI internally, they explicitly framed it as a way to free up employees from busy work so they could spend more of their paid time on that community engagement. It keeps the workforce profoundly engaged.
It all comes down to work design. AI is highly effective at stripping away the robotic, algorithmic parts of our jobs. And by doing so, it places the burden on us to be more empathetic, more creative, and more visionary. Organizations hold the power to choose whether this technology creates broadly shared prosperity or deepens inequality.
So, what does this all mean for the big picture? We've covered everything from the doomsday headlines of 2013 to the reality of task decomposition and corporate governance. But it leaves us with a provocative thought that extends way beyond the office.
Right.
If we zoom out and accept this EPOCH framework, if AI is forcing the entire global economy to pivot away from raw technical processing and move heavily toward empathy, presence, and hope, how is this going to fundamentally rewire our education system?
Oh, it demands a complete paradigm shift in how we teach.
Right. If the most highly paid, secure, and meaningful jobs of 2034 require you to be an absolute expert in human connection and emotional intelligence, rather than just being a wizard at building spreadsheets, how do we start grading that in schools?
It's incredibly difficult to measure.
How do you build a resume that proves your capacity for hope? How do we teach a generation of kids to specialize in the messy, beautiful things a machine just cannot replicate?
It changes everything about how we measure human potential. It really does.
So as you go back to your work today, I want you to look at your calendar and your to-do list and ask yourself, which part of my day is strictly algorithmic and which part is intrinsically human? Protect the human parts. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking the big questions, and we'll catch you next time.